understood me. He was the one that would talk to me. My dad isn't an angry person. He's very...
Do you think the reason why your mom is not with your dad is because of the way your mom is, according to you, toxic? Could that be a factor?
I do believe this. Growing up, I feel like my mother was able to control the narrative because she was the one there. So as I got older, I began to see things for myself and understand things, and talking to my dad. And then
hello guys, hello people. So make una watch this video of this young lady when he did 25 years. I posted the part one yesterday when he called police for mama. So many of these African mothers, these single mothers for Europe, una teach una go fit manipulate una daughter, una sons against their father. Mona listen to this girl. Mona listening. I don't go talk. Now the girl be this, so I don't post the video yesterday. She don't come explain the kind how the mama day, how the mama the user they work. She they work for all this toxic mama. Watch video, my people. I will come back later.
So welcome, Fine. You said you were 3 years old when you came to the USA.
yes,
So you're 25. That means for 22 years, the only life you knew was the American life.
yes.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about your religious beliefs. What's your spirituality? Because I watched the first video, and you were talking about spirituality. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so I did grow up in a Christian household, but as of 3 years ago, around right before I got pregnant with my daughter, I began my spiritual journey. I feel like, to me, spirituality is a journey to self. It's connecting with yourself and trusting that God is always within you. Meaning that, you know, we all have intuition. We all have a little voice in our head that tells us when something is right, when something is wrong. And my belief is that be a good person. You know, my spirituality is focused on being a good person and just knowing that what you put out into the world is going to come back to you. And so if you put positivity out, it's going to come back. If you put negativity out, it's going to come back. If it doesn't come back today or tomorrow, it may come back 5 years. It may not even come back in this lifetime. And so that's why I say I'm not religious, because I do believe in things that a lot of people don't believe in as Christians. And I say Christians because that's the household that I was raised in. So when I began my spiritual journey, it was a bit hard for me because all my life, you know, I was raised that, you know, Jesus Christ, you know, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. And then growing up and realizing different things, it's hard to be confident in your beliefs when you know that so many people are not going to understand. And I truly believe that this journey of mine is full of people misunderstanding me, but I've been misunderstood my whole life. And so it doesn't really bother me because I do believe spirituality is being true to yourself. And I believe that sometimes religion gets in the way of that because we fight over religion. And I do think it's a divider. I think it's a divider because there's so many different religions, but if we all listen closely, we're saying a lot of the most similar things. Most of all, like the golden rule, treat people how you want to treat yourself. That's just, if everybody would abide by that, first of all, a lot of things would be different, you know?
I'm a Christian, but I don't believe in Jesus. And I'll explain to you why. I don't believe Oyinbo people have somewhere where they want us black people to come and join them inside. 25, you're old enough. Why are you living with your mom?
So I actually only moved back home 2 months ago in October 10th, actually. I was living on my own since I was 18. When I was 18, I went to college and I graduated with a bachelor's degree in nursing. And after I graduated, I kind of got depressed because for a long time I've known that I was a healer. And, you know, I was pushed to go to school, and I'm grateful to go to school to have that experience. But now I know that I was never meant to be a registered nurse because I don't resonate with Western medicine. I just don't. And so that was depressing to have gone through 5 years of school and struggle to not only maintain my scholarship to pay for school, but also I was doing a lot of different jobs. Like I was doing hair, I was doing lashes, I was doing nails, I was selling food. And so 5 years of that, just to realize that this isn't what you want to do, this isn't your passion, it was depressing. So coming out of that depression, I met the father of my child, and then we were together for almost 3 years, but the relationship became toxic. I don't really want to go into detail, but it became toxic, and we had a big disagreement, and I was pushed to have to make a decision of staying in that toxic environment, or either being homeless with my daughter or returning to my mother's home, where I knew it was going to be toxic as well. But instead of being homeless, I decided my daughter didn't deserve that, because at the end of the day, I'm a mother first. So if it means that I have to be in an uncomfortable situation so that my daughter can have a roof over her head and be comfortable for in the meantime while I get on my feet, then I did that. That's what I did. And I had to go back to my mom's house, and knowing how I was raised, knowing it kind of felt like I was being brought back to hell, in my opinion, but I was fine with it. So yeah, that's kind of where everything transpired. All of this just started 2 months ago. I've only been there for the past 2 months.
Where are you now?
I'm safe. I have a roommate, a high school friend. And so now my daughter and I are here. We have our own space, own bathroom, own room. And so we're sharing this apartment.
Thought was like, wow, this girl is going through a lot. Most people are like, yeah, you take your kids abroad, they'll talk to you anyhow. And I'm like, no, if you respect a 25-year-old, should be given boundaries, even if they're living in your house. You should be able to respect their space. And if you're uncomfortable with them living in your house, you should tell them to leave. So when I now saw you trying to leave and your mother holding you back, then I was now worried again. I'm like, okay, you don't want her to have her own space, and she now wants to go, and then you don't want her to go again. What's going on? So tell me a little bit about that. Why didn't your mom want you to leave when you wanted to move out?
I believe that it's because she knows that if I left, then I wouldn't want a relationship with her anymore. Because honestly, my mother and I, before this situation, we didn't talk for 6 months, and it was mostly because of how she treated me while I was pregnant with my daughter. And that
tell me about that. How did she treat you when you were pregnant?
So when I was 8 months pregnant, I was moving into a new apartment with the father of my child. And so during the move, I had a conversation with my sister. I have 2 younger sisters. So the youngest is 15. And then we have a middle sister that's 23. And so she called me, my middle sister, she called me, and she was saying that my mother was yelling at her, doing this and doing this. And she was very, very upset. She was crying, and this particular sister, she doesn't cry easy. So the fact that she was so emotional upset me. So what she was telling me, I called my mom, and I basically stood up for my sister. I told my mom that she was wrong in the situation, and my mom, in response, apologized to my sister. And then she now told me that I was disrespectful but because of how I spoke to her. And so then we didn't talk for the last 2 months of my pregnancy. We didn't speak for the last 2 months of my pregnancy because of that situation. And so when I was pregnant, when I did have my daughter, me and my mom weren't in contact. 1 second. Hey, girl. I'm on live, okay? But, sorry, my roommate, she's here. But, so when I did have my daughter, my mom called me that day, and I lived 2 hours from her. So she came to see my daughter. Mind you, we had no conversation prior to this. There was no apology. There was no reconciliation. She just felt that because now my granddaughter is here, I'm automatically back in your life. So I allowed her to come visit that day, and you know, just the joy of having my daughter. She saw me that day. She left because it was in the middle of the week. And then she came back because I had a home birth. A lot of people don't know. So I had a home birth. I had my daughter at home. It was an unassisted birth, just me and the father of my child. And I delivered her by myself. And so she was healthy, completely healthy. But me having a nursing background, I knew that a baby is supposed to have a bowel movement within 24 to 72 hours. So after that, when I noticed that she didn't have her bowel movement, I decided to take her to the hospital. So we went to the hospital and they decided to admit us to the NICU because she was only 3 days old. While in the NICU, mind you, I just had a baby, so, you know, I'm still recovering myself. And so while I was in NICU, my mother calls me. She's in my apartment, and which is fine. I wanted her and my sister to stay in my apartment because they came to see the baby. But my sister gets on the phone with me and she doesn't sound like she's feeling well. So I asked her, I said, Micah, what's wrong? Like, why are you sounding like this? She said, I don't feel good. I have a sore throat. I have a headache. I said, oh, you guys cannot stay in my apartment when I come back with the baby because I have a newborn and her immune system is 2 weeks. You can't be around her. You don't feel good. From there, my mother, mind you, I'm in the hospital. I'm on the phone. She starts screaming at me, yelling at me, cursing at me, throwing curses at me. She said, you're kicking me out my home. You're kicking me out my home. Your home. I'm trying to explain to her that my daughter cannot come back to my apartment if my sister is also there and she doesn't feel well. She wasn't hearing it. She kept just screaming and yelling to the point where she's screaming so loud, the father of my child had to come and take the phone from me because I just had a baby. So she's screaming so loud, he came and took the phone and he stepped out to talk to her. And I don't know what was said, but then when I got the phone back, she was now upset that I let him get the phone to talk to her. So after that situation, me and my mom, we were kind of back and forth, but it wasn't until March that I truly we stopped associating with each other. We just stopped talking to each other. And for 6 months, we didn't speak. She didn't call. She didn't call me. I didn't call her. And yeah. And so up until what transpired in October.
Okay, where's your dad?
My dad is in Nigeria. I'm not sure if he might be in Asaba.
What's your relationship with your dad like?
So right now, currently, we're on speaking terms. We only just now got back on speaking terms because when I had my daughter, before I had my daughter, I kind of had a lot of animosity towards people who hurt me. So after having her, it kind of made me want to reconcile and give people another chance in my life. My dad was one of them. Growing up, my daddy wasn't there. He wasn't really there much. He would come visit, then he would go back, he'll come visit, and then the visits became less and less and less. And I would always reach out to him, text him, call him, try to have a relationship with him, but it wasn't reciprocated. So when I went off to college, I kind of decided I didn't want to chase after him anymore. I stopped wanting to talk to him. I no longer wanted a relationship with him. And I feel like I had a lot of anger towards him. So for years, I didn't talk to my father. For years, I didn't talk to him because I resented him for not being there. I resented him for leaving us because he wasn't there. I had to take on a lot of responsibility as a child that I do feel like is overlooked because I believe, like, especially as a firstborn, we're our mother's helper. And there's nothing wrong with being your mother's helper, but sometimes you become your mother's husband in a sense, you know. And I feel like because my dad wasn't there, I had to take on so much. And so I kind of resented him for it. I didn't talk to him for years. When I had my daughter, I just called him. I called him one day after like maybe 3 or 4 years of not talking to him. And I told him I wanted to tell him something. I introduced him to my daughter. He cried. He was happy. And we reconciled our relationship. And my dad, the reason I was so hurt is because whenever my dad was around, our relationship, he was the one that understood me. He was the one that would talk to me. My dad isn't an angry person. He's very...
Do you think the reason why your mom is not with your dad is because of the way your mom is, according to you, toxic? Could that be a factor?
I do believe this. Growing up, I feel like my mother was able to control the narrative because she was the one there. So as I got older, I began to see things for myself and understand things. And talking to my dad and then also hearing my mother's side of the story, I can use my own sense to put certain things together. Recently, it's like my mom, she's trying to heal, but I feel like she has so much anger towards my dad that she doesn't realize that it's her. You know, one recent example, my dad told me he texted her Happy Thanksgiving. Simple Happy Thanksgiving turned into her insulting him. Oh, you left me with the children, or this or that. And that's the relationship they've had for years. And so it's been years of me witnessing this, witnessing my dad saying something, trying to have a relationship, but then always being reminded that, one second.
She's beautiful.
Thank you. So trying to have a relationship and then always being reminded that, you know, he was the parent that wasn't there, and not being given the opportunity to have a relationship with us now. And, you know, so I'm not an evil person. I heard I hear my dad's story. I hear him out, and we're working on building our relationship again, because I understand that life happens, and he's apologized for not being there when I was younger. He feels bad about it, and he's taken accountability, and he tries his best to have a relationship with me now. And that's all I ever wanted, was a relationship with him.
Do you know you're more Christian than your mother? One of the foundation pillars of Christianity is forgiveness. Without forgiveness, you cannot even pray as a Christian. The scriptures are very clear. They say, before you pray, first forgive. Your mother is harboring. Here's my view to this, because I know this is also going to trend, and I'm also going to get bashed for it, but I'm all in. Your mother is too busy focusing on the spirituality of Christianity while ignoring the humanity of Christianity. Christianity is more physical than spiritual. People don't get this. It is more physical. It's what you do. It's what you say. Is if you can forgive. Is if you can love. Christ said, 1 John chapter 4 verse 8, those who do not love do not know God. So, if your mom can't forgive your father, why is she forcing you to be a Christian like her? She's not making you a better person. She's trying to make you into her, which, in my humble opinion, my understanding of this, how old is your mom?
She just had a birthday, so 58.
Okay, your mom's older than me. Your mom's 10 years older than me. I'm 47, going to be 48 next year, so like 11 years. So I think I'm closer in age to your mom than to you. And here's what I see. You're somebody looking for love, looking for forgiveness, looking for healing, not spirituality in the Christian sense of believing in Jesus is your Lord and Savior. You have to follow Jesus. You have to pray. None of those things are important. You need healing. You need love. You need somebody to be there with you to hear you out. You were traumatized as a child. You went through trauma. Have you ever been de-traumatized?
How does one become de-traumatized?
You actually have to go to therapy for it.
I haven't been yet.
Then you are also going through what is defined as RTS. Please read about it. Religious trauma syndrome. You went through the trauma of having to take your father's place in the home, having to deal with, in your own words, being your mother's husband, having to be a firstborn to stand up for your siblings, and now you're going through another type of trauma. You're going to go to hell. You're not a good person. You're a demon. You're being occultic. That is religious trauma. So you need to be de-traumatized. Your mom too needs to be de-traumatized. She needs therapy. She's Nigerian mothers don't get this. They're not going to listen, but she needs therapy. Jesus cannot save her. She needs to heal from her hurt. And she needs professional help, because you're calling Jesus and you're making the situation seem to us, the outsiders, like you're just trying to make a carbon copy of yourself, even though your situation is not right. His daughter wanted to marry, and he told his daughter not to change her name, so she bears his name because he had no son. And my question is, why do you want to keep your name? What is it that you want to transfer to your children? There's really nothing. It's just an ego thing. Do you understand? So I see this a lot in your mom. It's an ego thing. She doesn't understand what Christianity is. She doesn't understand that Christ is love.
Yeah.
Christianity is love God and love your neighbor. And Christianity clearly tells us that you cannot love God that you have not seen when you don't love your neighbor that you have seen. So a lot of people will disagree with us. I might suggest to you to, in a polite way, talk to your mom, because in the Nigerian sense, children are not encouraged to be disrespectful, even though personally I don't see where you were disrespectful. But there's a consensus, a general consensus that you are disrespectful to your mom. So you might apologize for that if you feel that that's the way forward. But trust me, your mom needs therapy, not Jesus. Therapy. She needs to heal. And I'm glad you're working out your relationship with your dad. You need to be with your dad. You need to talk to him. You need to encourage him. If your mom's 58, I'm sure your dad's in his 60s.
70.
Your dad's 70. You're not going to have him around for much longer. I hope you're aware. Whatever little time you have left, mend your fences. Talk to him. Explain your spirituality to him. Daddy, this is what I believe.
Yeah, we had that.
You said something about your dad. You said he was the one that used to listen to you. Tell me a little bit about that.
So like my mom, she was the one that was there. But whenever my dad would come home, me and him would have more heartfelt conversations. My mom, we never really had heartfelt conversations. It was never really like, it just never was a loving, you know, like how you randomly tell your daughter, oh, I love you, you're beautiful, and then, or you just tell me about this, tell me about that. Sometimes like we'll have conversations like that, but with my dad, it's like he genuinely wanted to know what was happening with me, and just the way he expressed his love was different. And I don't know, sometimes I just feel like my mom, because she was living the life of a single mom, because she was raising us alone, I think maybe she felt like she had to be more tough and couldn't like open up a certain type of way, but she was very quick to punish, not as quick to listen, not as quick to console, not as quick to hear. And so it turned into me not even wanting to have certain conversations, me just rather not approaching her with certain topics. So just not really approachable. But my dad is like, when he came home, like we would have conversations about his childhood. We would have conversations about things that he's experienced, because he's a well-educated and well-traveled man. He's lived a long life. So I feel like he always would talk to me about things like that, tell me about certain things with the family and certain traditions or certain experiences. And it's like my mom, I feel like we've learned those things about her through the years of being around, but sometimes we only had a few conversations where we were, you know, like, sit down, let me tell you this, let's talk about this. It wasn't really like that with her.
Now, when your baby was born and you told your sister to leave, I support you 100%. A lot of people were bashing you in the comment section saying you were rude. No, you were not rude. We cannot continue identifying stupidity and rudeness in the same bracket. I'm half Romanian. My mom is Romanian. If you have a cough, you don't go visiting people. They'll walk you out of their house. If you have a cough, why are you in my house? You want to give me the cough? Because Oyibo people tend to understand what contagion is. They tend to understand communicable diseases. They tend to understand how you could spread a virus or bacterial infection, and they will not take offense. If someone had a fever and they were coughing and they had a sore throat, those are signs of a viral infection. You might have the immunity to fight it, but your baby at 2 weeks might not share that privilege.
Yeah.
So you did nothing wrong by telling them to leave your house. I would do the same. My parents know me. I would do the same. They wouldn't even come. I went to my sister's house in the UK last time I was in, and she gave me something and she washed it twice. And I'm like, why are you washing it? She said, I don't want your trouble. You understand? So sometimes I feel I'm a little too hard and I try to tone down. During COVID, I went to see my mom. I did not hug my mom. I say, hey, mommy, I love you. Stand there.
Yeah.
I stand here. My mom felt very offended, but she knew it was me. That's how I handle it. And to the glory of God, I never caught COVID. And I pray I never catch it. Throughout, when it was peaking, I never caught it. So I understand what you're trying to express. But you see, Nigerians need to start removing sentiment from reality. You are protecting your baby who was immunocompromised as a result of her young age. It's not a bad thing. Nobody should make you feel bad about it. And I think during therapy, I think your mom needs to go to therapy and you need to go to therapy, and then you both need to go to joint therapy. No. It's really important, especially your mom. You also need to go through therapy for the time in your life when your dad wasn't there and you felt some type of way. You need to unburden. And you need to heal. And one of the reasons why people look around for religions and all these other things is because they're trying to heal themselves. And it's like you have something in your teeth and you don't have a toothpick. You will you'll look for anything sharp to try to dislodge it from your teeth because you don't have the right utensil or equipment to remove the piece of meat from your teeth. So what you're doing is you're groping around looking for what your real problem is. You need healing.
Yeah.
And this new year is your opportunity to gift yourself that gift. You've started the healing process by reaching out to your dad. Continue that relationship. Don't break off your relationship with your mom. You don't have to be Christian. You don't need prayers. You don't need any Jesus. You need healing.